What's up, everybody? It's Gneissish, and welcome to the Pro Series video on the Power Loop, or aka Infinite Power Loop. They are the exact same circuit, but I think it's time that we rebrand to a new name, just the Power Loop, because there have been a ton of updates to the Rust electrical system since the original circuit was created. And so as incredibly useful as it is, it's sort of useful for a little bit different of a reason now. So we're gonna call it the Power Loop. The question I got was, I have root power inputs, solar, wind, combo, whatever, going to a battery. If those are destroyed, obviously the battery takes over. But what if someone breaks into my base and destroys just the battery? Is there a way that I can have, the solar, wind, or combo of the two take over? So essentially, if you have two systems, if you have two pieces of the system, the root input and the battery, as long as you have one side of those still standing, how can we have it that one that's still standing continues to power the base? And that's exactly what we're going to do with the Power Loop. Now I have a power bank set up over here. If you're not sure what that is, check out the link and you can watch my video on that. And then the other half, of course, is the Power Loop circuit, and we're going to start there. And so we have two branches, a blocker and an OR switch, so it's a relatively easy circuit to make. We're going to start by running the power out of the first branch to the power in on the second branch to daisy chain them. We're going to have two lines, the green line and the blue line. The green line is going to be the root power line from the root power through the OR switch, and the blue line is going to be the battery output power through the OR switch. And so we're going to run from the branch out of the first branch. We're going to run that to one side of the OR switch, and then we're going to run the other side of the OR switch. The blue line is going to run from the blocker to whatever input you didn't use on the first one. And so the next thing you're going to do is the branch out of the middle branch here, the second branch I should say, is going to run to the block pass through on the blocker. And then the power out of that second branch is going to be the charging line for your battery, and you're going to run that to the power in on your battery like so. And then finally over here anyway, you're going to run the power out of your battery. This will be the blue line to the blocker input, the power in of your blocker. So I'm just going to run that up like so. And that's it. And so except for the main power, which is going to come in here, this branch here will stay in its default configuration, and we'll set this branch here in a second. So I'm going to run power. Real quick before we run over there, notice that we have 98 volts coming out of here. It's because the battery is sending out 100, the blocker is using 1, the OR switch is using 1, and so it has 98 total available to the base, which is important, and we'll talk about that in a second. So over here at the power bank, I have this running to a branch. I've currently got 133. It's probably dark out. Let me make it sunny in the magical realm of admin. So 232 when it's high noon. We have both wind and solar, and so I'm going to go ahead and send 150 over to this Power Loop circuit, and I'll explain why here in just one second. So we're just going to take a green line out of the branch out with 150 volts in it, and we're going to run that over to our input on our first branch here, the power in of our first branch right there. And so now we have 150 coming in here. And of course, since we've done that, we have, without changing this, we have a ton of voltage coming over here, but we've blocked off the battery because the block pass-through on the blocker is now engaged, which means we have zero active usage, which means the battery is just charging. It's not putting out anything to anything. And so remember that when it was engaged, it had 100 coming, 100 arriving here, 99 coming out of here, 98 coming out of here. You want to match these up. You don't want to send more power from the root power sources out, because if you lose those, you don't have that much power with the battery. So you want this to also be 98. So I'm going to set this to 99 because that is going to send out 99 of this branch out, and it's going to have 99 arriving here and then 98 here. So now the two sides, the green line and the blue line sides, both output 98 on the output of the OR switch, which is very important. And so whatever we have left coming into this branch after we send out our 99 is going to route through here. Two of them are going to stop the blocker, and the rest are just going to trickle charge this battery. And if you've seen any of my other videos, I've talked about the 80% charging efficiency rule, that large batteries need 125 volts plus, especially if they have 100 active usage. But this doesn't apply in this scenario because this has zero active usage until we swap over. And the only reason we swap over is because we no longer have power coming in here at enough, less than 102 arriving here, that we kick over to the battery. And so this battery can just slowly charge over time. And so all that means is the 150 that you send out of there, or whatever you send out of there, you need 99 of it to come out of here. So 100, here, so 102. 102 would give you enough to power this, just keep this block. So as long as you send at least 102 over here all the time, you're not going to charge anything on 102, but whatever you send over 102, 103, I guess, if you count the other, output here. The point is, over 103 is what will charge this battery. And so the more you set this to, if you set that to 200, then you'll have, around, we can just do that. If I, right now I have 150. If I say, well, I want to charge my battery faster, I set it to 200. I'm still going to send 99 out of this branch out here, but now I'm sending 100 out of this power out. And so after it uses it and the 2 that come out of here, we have 97 charging this battery. So it's just going to charge faster. But once it's full at 24,000 rust swap minutes, you don't need it to charge anymore. So if you could, if you wanted to be engaged with your electrical systems, you could, wait until it's charged and then back this down to just 102, so that all your powering, like right now we've got, 150. If let's pretend this is charged at 24,000 rust swap minutes, and so there's no point in just wasting this 47, you could go back over to your power bank or your power source and you could set this to 102. And what that's going to do is it's going to send out just enough, 2 coming out of here. This uses 1, this sends out 1 because branch out has priority, which blocks the blocker. And now we have the 99 here. We have just enough to keep this blocked. And now this is going to be 0. We're not charging anymore because in this fictitious example, it was charged. And so we no longer have to keep charging it. So that's up to you, or you could just, let it go. You can keep it 150 and never worry about it. That's up to you. So that is it. And at this point, we now have our power loop circuit set up, where we are currently on the A side, which is the green line side, which is our root power side. And so if this was your base, let's say you had you're starting a power tree in your base. And so we're going to daisy chain these 2 together. And so let's say you have this as your base, and we'll go ahead and just run power into the base here, like so. And so then you can start doing stuff. I'm going to set up a couple of quick things just so that we can have an example and show you what happens when we lose power. I'm just going to run these over to this light switch over here, and we don't have quite enough. 2, 4, 6, 7 volts we need for that. So I'll set that to 7. That should kick on all of our lights. Yep. And then we'll throw down, the classic turd example. Throw a switch up for that. We'll just run something out of here. So the branch out of this one will run to the input on our switch. That's a terrible wiring job. Sorry about that, folks. To the thing, we have 10, 11. So we'll set this to 11. And there we go. Now we've got a turret. That works just fine. And so here we are on our base. Everything's fine. And let's simulate if someone comes through, we're charging this battery slowly over time. Let's pretend that enough time had gone by. And someone blows up either enough that you drop below 102, or they blow up all of it, so you definitely drop below 102, and this swaps over to the battery, so it's going to swap over to the B side. We can simulate that by unhooking this line. There we go. We swapped over to the B side. You'll notice that the turret and the lights shut off for a second during the transfer. And so that's something that we'll talk in the end of the video of the pros and cons, why it's important to know that. So now we're over on the B side, so it functions. And so right now this is going to run off battery until it dies, right? So once it finally runs out of juice, then everything stops. But if you were to hook back up the green line from the root power sources from our power bank over here, if we were to reconnect this to our system, where is it? Right there, give or take. Now we've swapped back over to the A side. Notice that we don't lose power swapping back over to the root power. That's not incredibly important, but just something to note. So now we're back on the A side, and that'll just keep happening. As long as you have one side of this, either power, input power, or battery, your base will continue to run. So that's it. I guess the warning or the pros and cons, the pros would be that, as long as you have one side, you keep going. The con is you have to make sure that your root power is enough that you're not dancing around 102 right here. Because if you drop below 102, you swap over to the battery, and there's this lag point where these turn off and turn back on. And you don't really want your turrets power cycling on the outside of your base. That's a recipe for disaster. So you just have to make sure that in order to use the power loop correctly, you have to make sure that the power coming into it is steady, which is why I suggest you use a power bank. Again, check out that video if you're not sure what that means. This is a great way to ensure that you're not dancing around 102, and it allows you just to have a steady input of power that includes whatever you want to keep this thing charging. So that is just about all I got, folks. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave them below, or you can get me on my Discord. See you later.